Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Elephant Exposed. With This Needs to Be Said, I am your host, Mr. TNTBS, or AKA CJ Jones. And it's been a little while since we've had some news like this, and especially in my neck of the woods. So I'm just going to get right into it. I was just notified of this breaking story that is coming right out of my backyard, Charlotte, North Carolina. There's been a tragic occurrence that has happened concerning some police officers that was serving a warrant. That was all I got. I was just told just check out the news feed and it should be there. And I found something here with our local station, ABC. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead into my share screen and we'll bring up the point of view and set it up. So I apologize uh for the lack of preparedness on that. But let's just get into it because I mean this is just crazy. So let's see what we got.
Los Angeles, and we start today with some breaking news. Police are saying that numerous law enforcement officers have been struck by gunfire in Charlotte. A SWAT team responding to the scene, police describing it as an active situation. They say that a U.S. Marshals task force was attempting to serve a warrant when gunfire erupted. At this point, it is still unclear the number of people that were shot, but you can clearly see from this video, it is quite a scene there. We also do not know the extent of their injuries as well, but a tremendous police presence. You can see officers there in tactical gear as well. Again, they were serving some kind of warrant. You see multiple agencies there that have responded to this home. Again, we know that people were transported to the hospital. We do not know that the extent of their injuries at this time. This is happening in the Shannon Park neighborhood. For anybody that is familiar with the Charlotte, North Carolina area, it's the Shannon Park neighborhood. It's in East Charlotte.
East
It's
Charlotte.
a residential neighborhood, as you can clearly see there, and a tremendous law enforcement presence is still in the area. They're asking people that live there to avoid the scene at all costs. You can also see that they have heavy armored vehicles
Please
right
do.
in this person's yard as well, just to give you an idea of the situation that the officers on the ground there are dealing with. Joining me for more on this is our ABC News law enforcement contributor and former FBI agent Brad Garrett to talk about some of this. So Brad, look, the details that we have right now are minimal, but anytime that you hear that numerous law enforcement officers have been struck by gunfire, that is deeply, deeply concerning.
Well, no doubt, Kana. And so what you have, it sounds like, is that they go to this house to serve a warrant, and they're immediately met with gunfire. Now, maybe they weren't expecting it, maybe they were, I don't know. If they didn't have a SWAT team or tactical people with them, you walk into these situations, you knock on a door, and you may have other officers with you. But if the person on the other side of the door has an assault weapon or something that fires in a rapid fashion, you're at a total disadvantage. So the idea that you could shoot a number of officers in under a minute is quite likely under the scenario that I just described.
Oh wow.
Certainly, and I want to mention to you, this just came in, that authorities are saying there in the area that at least one shooting suspect was located deceased at the residence, and they say they located this deceased person after clearing that scene. So again, at least one shooting suspect was located and deceased. They're saying that they're also questioning right now two other occupants inside that home. Brad, what can they gain from that?
Well,
Identification information.
Let's say, for example,
Yes.
that the person they were looking for, obviously they have an idea of him, but do they have an idea of this other person? What were the circumstances? In other words, the people in the house can play out in frame by frame, basically what happened, knocks on the door,
Yeah.
grabs a weapon, starts firing at officers. They can describe what weapons were in the house, why they were in the house, why these two people were in the house. Give you a lot of information. And what also brought the police to that residence. It may obviously be connected to at least the person they were looking for, probably.
Certainly, we often hear that it's one of the more dangerous things for officers to do to respond to a domestic dispute. But I'm hoping
Right.
that you can, help us understand the danger that these officers are placing themselves in when they're going to serve a warrant like this.
I mean, every time I've done this so many times, every time you go to a door and you don't really know what's on the other side of it, you take as many precautions as you can.
Yeah,
In
'cause-
other words, you don't stand in front of the door, you stand around the frame. You don't know who may come to the door. But you can do all of these things and put people in tactical positions. But if you have somebody inside that either starts shooting through the door, pops a window and starts shooting, it's very difficult to overcome that immediately. You're
Right.
right in the middle of a fire. You may not even have a weapon at that point. And so as a result, it always is there. You think about it every house you walk up to. Could this turn really bad? And of course it could. And that's why so many times, Candy, you will see now police, particularly during searches or arrests, will use tactical SWAT teams to enter to potentially avoid maybe this type of shooting.
Something catastrophic happening. Brad Garrett, thank you so much for reminding everybody. Law enforcement says that numerous law enforcement officers have been struck by gunfire there in North Carolina. They have been rushed to the hospital. They did say they found at least one shooter deceased in the residence, and authorities are saying that they will update the public as soon as possible, and we will keep you updated accordingly.
Okay, so let me try to mute this or pause this while I still can. This is very sad and disturbing. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this share. The gentleman that the lady was talking to, I don't know his position or any of those things, but it sounds like he has a law enforcement background and or experience with these things. And this is what Elephant Exposed is designed for, because of my experiences and the things that I've been trained in. And you don't necessarily there's so many things that are running through my head right now, so please excuse me. This is normally I would have time to like sit, look at a video and prepare and pretty much have an idea about what I want to say. But right now I got so many things running through my mind. We're just gonna just go with this. First of all, the gentleman made some very, very good points. Basic law enforcement points. Basically what it all boils down to is that you can have all the fundamentals and have them down to where it becomes second nature to you. What do I mean by that? When it comes to trying to prepare yourself for any kind of call, because any kind of call can go haywire and berserk and at a snap of a finger. Something as you would think, something as simple, or you would think is simple as like, hey, you driving without your lights on at night, or hey, sir, your tag is out, or whatever. Those are things that are not even what I'm saying, like anything outside of an emergency call like 911. Those calls can go from 0 to 100. Why? Because of the very nature itself of potential things can go bad. So when we hear our critics out there, and they are out there, I have them. So when our critics says, oh, it doesn't take all of that. Why everybody looking like they ready for war? Well, here we are. Case in point. Outside of police officers, no matter what entity they are, whether they are federal, state, county, city, special, it does not matter what agency or what level you are in. There are certain performances or certain duties within the performance of law enforcement that your level of danger is really heightened. And two of the main ones that come to my mind just right off the bat is like what the news anchor woman said, asked as a question, and it was responded to by the gentleman. Outside of domestic calls, warrants are right there. I will put them neck and neck because every call can be life-threatening. So when we see, unless you wear the uniform and badge and actually are placed in these situations, it's real easy to sit back and Monday night quarterback how officers appear. Because in reality, guys, law enforcement itself is 97%, in my opinion, reaction. 97% reaction. You are responding. There's almost no such thing as proactive policing, but you are reacting. And that's why you have always got to have this heightened sense of alertness, because anything can go really bad really quickly. And for the people that put their lives on the line each and every day, they want to make it home too. They want to make it back to their friends and families and loved ones. Just because a person put on the badge, any person put on the badge, does not automatically make them a bad or an evil person. What we do here on Elephant Exposed is that we expose corruption, heavy badge syndrome, things like that. We do expose that. But we also go by a saying here in Elephant Exposed: if you are right, you're right. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And in this particular incident, these officers are just doing their job. They're just doing their job. They are literally getting paid to serve a warrant. And it does not matter what that warrant is. It could be something where I would be, for lack of a better phrase, I would say it can be something as normal as, because I don't want to say simple, as normal as an failure to appear. A bench warrant is what we would call it. You failed to show up to court today. Now we are officially serving you your notice. Bam, signed by a judge. Come or go to jail. Or in some cases, we are here to get you because you did not, and because you ignored other said warnings and letters and so forth. So now we have a warrant for your arrest for, for you failing to comply with said orders. So now in this particular case, it's covered by one of our local stations. I'm just going to read what I have because, like I said, I'm not familiar with this. It says ABC News Live. 3 law enforcement officers were killed and, oh my goodness. 3 law enforcement officers were killed and 5 more were wounded in a shooting incident in Charlotte, North Carolina, Monday afternoon. That's today. And I live on the east side. So that's literally down the street from where I live, as far as neighborhood goes, or side of town. At the same time of the shooting, the U.S. Marshals Task Force were serving a warrant. So, okay, so we got Okay, so this is not even the sheriff's department. Okay, so here in Charlotte, um, we have what we call city kiddies. You have your Charlotte Police Department. That's your city police officers. Then you have your deputy sheriffs. They are the ones that do the knocking on people's doors, serving the warrants and so forth. That's their job. But now that I see this, and I'm kind of, like I said, I'm just uh reading this off. This is U.S. Marshals. So from what my experience with marshals are, United States Marshals are, they go get the big boys. They go get the serious felons. Okay, so when you're talking U.S. Marshals, you're talking someone that is definitely a felon. Okay, and these are like no small potatoes type of crimes and so forth. So it says at the same time of the shooting, the U.S. Marshals Task Force was serving a warrant in investigating in an area where they were engaged by active gunfire from a subject, police said. The suspect, who had not yet been identified, was also killed in the standoff. Three deceased officers, the three deceased officers served in the U.S. Marshal Task Force. So it wasn't anybody in Charlotte, or it wasn't an employee that worked for Charlotte PD, and it wasn't anybody that works for Charlotte Mecklenburg Sheriff's Department. So these are U.S. Marshals that are no longer with us. But nevertheless, it doesn't make it any less impactful, because we're still talking about people that are just trying to do their jobs, guys. I mean, this is ridiculous. One of the 5 wounded is a U.S. Marshal, wounded is a U.S. Marshal, while the other 4 work. Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. See, this is why it pays to read everything. So I have to stand corrected right here. One of the 5 wounded is a U.S. Marshal, while the other 4 work for Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. Chief Johnny Jennings said in a press conference today, so this evening. One of the officers is said to be in critical condition. So 3 are definitely dead and 1 is in critical condition. So again, I have no problem with being corrected, and I was just projecting ahead, but my projection was incorrect. So 1 of the 5 is a U.S. Marshal. The other 4 is Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officers. And that's verified by Chief Johnny Jennings. It said just before 5 p.m., about 3 hours after police, I'm sorry, let me read this back over. Just before 5 p.m., about 3 hours after police said that there had been a shooting, police said at least 1 shooting suspect was located deceased at the residence after clearing the scene. Officers had suspected the individual of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. See, I told you. So that's that. Police are questioning 2. See, in the video, it sounded like she said they were just questioning 1, but police are questioning 2 other people who lived in the home as persons of interest, they said. And they kind of question and answer that too. What's the point of interviewing them? Because they can provide them with a lot of information, because clearly whoever they were after, they knew they were well prepared to respond violently and without prejudice, is how we would say it. And just didn't give a goddamn about these police officers. So when you get a shooter like that, they would rather die, and I'm just being honest, they would rather die than to see bars or to see a court system. And they end up taking lives. So it says police previously described the incident as an active situation and said a SWAT team was on the scene. Police said the shelter-in-place order was lifted after the house was cleared. So they just cleared it, I guess within an hour or minutes. In a statement on social media, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper said that he's in touch with police about the shooting, and he has offered up state resources to help. So this is a live manhunt. It's still going. It is still going. And guys, I mean, come on, like we would get serious things like this to occur every now and then. And I'm tempted not to throw a particular politician name out there, because when this particular person was put into office and they were asked about the uptick in crime of a growing city, instead of them really thinking about their response and trying to handle the question with care, the response from this particular person that held office, the way that that person sounded or how they came across was like cold and callous, and was, and in the sense of, it's kind of like, well, their focus was really just about money and them staying in office, but not really being concerned about what the real issue is, and that is the homelessness, the uptick in crime, and so forth. So the response was basically like, oh, well, these are the byproducts of a growing city. Hence the reason why your locals, like myself, most of us have left, have moved out, have gone to the outskirts of Charlotte, true Charlotteans. So if you are my age and you grew up in Charlotte, back, 70s or later, you see why this is very disheartening. You see why our concern is, what happened to the Southern hospitality? What happened to our good old country way of living? We're still below the Bible Belt. Most households and stuff like it, we're still all, God-fearing people and everything. But there has been a shift in the culture. And it's very disheartening. It's very disheartening. Now, I'm not trying to do church in my show or anything like that, but we are a God-fearing people overall here in Charlotte. And I don't care what you call what the color of your skin is or nothing. Most people here, have a respect for the Lord. Therefore, we have respect for human life. And yes, we are no exception as far as to, police corruption and different things like that, because I mean, that festers. But thank God now we have technology and everything. We have cameras everywhere. So it kind of helped address that. And then platforms like this one, like mine, Elephant Exposed, that's what birthed us. And to get this corruption addressed and eventually eradicated from the justice system. But that's long time projection. But that's the ultimate goal. My deepest sincere condolences goes out to these officers that was just trying to do their job. They didn't know that this was going to be their last day here. And in the performances of their duties. Everybody that wears a uniform and wear the badge is not corrupt. They're trying to work and live just like you and me. And most of those officers do a dang good job. And we got to do better. If you wrong, you know you wrong. You're wrong. And you deserve to be dealt with and held accountable to the highest degree possible. And for anyone that gives aid and comfort, you are just as bad. You are an assailant. And you need to be dealt with as such. If you are hiding this individual, or you are helping them escape, or individuals, if you're sitting on information that you know you should be sharing, you're wrong, and you need to be held accountable as well. We're talking about human lives, guys. This ain't a video game where you can just sit there and hit reset. And you don't have to know these individuals to have common decency, human decency. Three people definitely are not here. And one person is hanging on. Critical condition. And for what? Because somebody decided that they wasn't going to go to jail. Somebody ain't going to be held accountable. If you are man or woman enough to do the crime, then you should be man and or woman enough to deal with the consequences of your actions. That's called adulting. And it doesn't have to make sense of your motivation. But you didn't have to kill anyone either. And then you wonder why there's a polarizing of responsible gun owners trying to stick up for gun laws and everything. And then you have people who said, people on the other end being like, this is why we need to get rid of the guns and stuff like that. That's where all this stuff comes from. And this is crazy. It is so easy to be on the outside and judge it from the outside. If that was me, I would have, I could have, I should have. Until you are actually in it. Then it becomes different. So let me ask you, what if one of the three possible four victims, and they are victims, what if they were a part of your family? What if that was your brother or your sister, your mom, your uncle, your aunt? The last person to hold your name, your legacy, or your one and only daughter. Would it be different then? Yes, it would. I don't even have to pause for effect. Yes, it would. And all for what? Because the individual or individuals don't want to face the consequences of their actions. And here on Elephant Exposed, I'm here to say you're wrong. And I hope that you are dealt with justly, righteously. And even though we cannot give these families their loved ones back, at least they would have the justification in the sense to know that their assailants were properly held accountable in the justice system. And maybe that may bring them some form of relief. Guys, that's all I have for you right now. And if I get maybe like a closing story a little bit later on, I'll be more than glad to share with you. But thank you guys for watching. That's my take on it so far. Again, I apologize for, this particular video not being as polished, but when you have a story like this, it has to get out and it has to be shared. And for those residents that are here in our area on the east side of town, if you don't have no business being over there, please, 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 please steer clear from over there. And let's hope that no other residents in on the east side area, that nobody else got hurt because bullets don't have a name. So let's also be praying for the safety of the people that could have fallen victim to collateral damage. So with that being said, again, I'm your host, CJ Jones, or Mr. TNTBS. This is Elephant Exposed, and I'll catch you later. Thank you guys for watching.